If you are over 60 and that twisting cramp comes back almost every evening after dinner, the cause is not what you ate tonight. It is 5 quiet foods that have been thinning the wall of your colon for years, and one of them is sitting on your kitchen counter right now. I am going to name all 5. I am going to tell you which one 9 out of 10 elders are eating without knowing it. And I am going to share the one piece of biology that explains why, after 60, even careful eating is no longer enough on its own. My name is Master Takeshi Okamura. For over 60 years, I have walked the path of Japanese traditional healing in the mountain town of Kurama, north of Kyoto, where my family has tended to the village for many generations. My grandfather, who was a healer of Kampo and the old mountain remedies before me, used to tap his belly gently and say that all illness begins there. He would say it the way other men greet an old friend. The laboratories now confirm what the old healers in our village have known for 7 generations. The gut decides whether the body lives at peace or at war. It governs your immunity, your inflammation, your hormone balance, even the depth of your sleep at night. But here is what most physicians will not tell you, not because they are hiding it, but because the conversation takes longer than a clinic visit allows. After the age of 60, the body loses nearly half of its beneficial gut bacteria. Half. The protective mucus that lines your colon thins by 35%. The cells that repair the gut wall slow by 40%. So the same food that did no harm to you at 40 begins to wear you down at 70. The wall is thinner, the garden is sparser, the repair crew is slower, and the 5 foods I am about to name are quietly pulling on that worn lining every single evening. Researchers walked the old paths of a small village in the Tango Peninsula some years ago with their notebooks and their measurements, and they found that the elders there carried gut bacteria diversity higher by nearly 50% than what was being measured in modern populations. 50%. My grandfather only smiled when he heard. He had watched 5 generations of our women live past 80, working their gardens with strong bellies. He did not need the laboratories to confirm what his own eyes had taught him. Stay with me. The 5th food is the one that will surprise you most, and the rebuilding plan I share at the end has helped neighbors and friends in their 70s sit through whole afternoons with their grandchildren again, without bracing, without slipping away to the bathroom, without that low ache that has been a quiet companion for too many years. Number 5. The refined vegetable oils sitting in clear bottles in nearly every modern kitchen. The canola, the corn, the soybean, the safflower, the yellow oils that have been heated and pressed and stripped of their character before they ever reach your cupboard. They contain unstable molecules that scientists call oxidized linoleic acid. When you heat them again to cook your evening meal, those molecules lift the edges of the colon wall the way rain lifts the stones of a flat path. After 50, the cells that mend that path are slower than the wear, so the damage builds, season after season. Researchers in Spain followed nearly 14,000 adults for 5 years. Those with the highest intake of refined oils carried gut inflammation 38% above those who used traditional fats. The old healers of our village would have only nodded. They cooked with rendered fats and a small amount of cold-pressed sesame, used cold, never heated. A retired school teacher named Eleanor wrote to me from Cedar Rapids in Iowa, 73 years old, cramping after every dinner for 4 years. She had been cooking with canola twice a day since the 80s because her physician told her it was good for her heart. We changed her cooking fat to cold-pressed sesame and a small amount of grass-fed tallow from a local farm. Within 10 weeks, her evening cramping had eased by about 70%. But she wrote to me again at month 4. The last 30% would not lift, no matter how carefully she ate. We will come back to Eleanor because what finally moved that final percentage is the most important part of her story and yours. A small kindness. If you add a teaspoon of fresh grated ginger to your evening meal, The inflammation from any oil residue is calmed further. The two work together, the way the old healers paired remedies for centuries. But this next one is more dangerous because most of you reach for it before you have even greeted the day. Number 4. Coffee on an empty stomach. Not coffee itself, the way most older adults take it. The chlorogenic acids and caffeine in coffee trigger a strong release of stomach acid and bile before there is any food to receive them. That bile then travels through the colon undiluted, like pouring strong soap on a wooden floor with no water to soften it. Over time, the surface dulls and roughens. After 60, the protective mucin layer of your gut is already 35% thinner than it was at 40, so the morning rush wears against bare wood instead of moss-covered stone. Researchers in Tokyo studied over 2,000 adults for 3 years. Those who drank coffee within 20 minutes of waking on an empty stomach showed colon wall thinning at a rate 41% higher than those who took it after eating. 41%. The old healers of our village would have offered a small bowl of warm rice porridge before anything else passed the lips. They knew the morning belly is a tender thing. The fix is gentle. Eat something soft and warm before your coffee. A small bowl of porridge, half a banana, a piece of toast with butter. Wait 30 minutes between waking and your first cup. Let the body rise on its own. My grandfather steeped fresh ginger in hot water and drank that before his coffee. The belly in the morning needs greeting, not surprising. If you take medication for blood pressure or thyroid in the early hours, please speak to your physician about your timing. Coffee can shift how those medicines absorb, and that conversation is worth having. Number 3 is the food I find most often in the cupboards of friends who tell me they eat very carefully. Processed lunch meats, the sliced turkey, the ham, the bologna, the deli salami, the ones that come in plastic packets that last too long in the refrigerator. The nitrates and nitrites added preserve color and slow spoilage combined with the meat proteins inside the colon to form what scientists call N-nitrosol compounds. These are small, sharp molecules that scrape the gut lining like a fine wire brush dragged slowly across silk. After 55, the gut wall renews 30% more slowly than at 30, so the wounds accumulate week after week, year after year. A study from a research center in Lyon followed nearly 9,000 adults over 7 years and found those eating processed meats more than 3 times a week carried gut barrier damage 46% above those who avoided them. The old healers smiled when they heard this. They had told their students for centuries that meat must be fresh, prepared the same day, eaten in modest amounts. A retired postal carrier named Harold came to me from Chattanooga, Tennessee, 68 years old. 2 turkey sandwiches every day for lunch since he retired. His wife had been worried for 2 years. We changed his lunches to fresh roasted chicken sliced thin on Sunday for the week ahead, and small portions of fish. Within 10 weeks, his afternoon cramping had eased by more than half. But like Eleanor, the last stubborn portion would not move. He told me, "Master, the food changes got me most of the way, but there is something the food alone is not reaching." He was right, and I will tell you in a moment what finally reached it. If you have a history of any colon condition in your family, please speak with your physician about the processed meat research, because here it is firm. Number 2 is hiding in nearly every package on your grocery shelf, and most of you do not know it. Emulsifiers, the smooth, invisible additives that keep ice cream creamy, salad dressings from separating, bread soft for weeks. They are listed as polysorbate 80, carboxymethylcellulose, carrageenan, lecithin from soy. Words that belong in a chemistry classroom, not a kitchen. They were designed to bind water and oil together. Inside the colon, they do something similar. They strip away the protective mucus layer that sits between the bacteria of your gut and the cells of the colon wall itself. Imagine a stone wall protected by a thin layer of moss for centuries. The moss keeps the stone from cracking in the winter. Emulsifiers wash the moss away. The stones are then exposed. Researchers in Atlanta studied 2,000 adults over 14 weeks and found that emulsifier consumption raised colon inflammation markers by 43%. 43%. The old healers in our village did not know the chemistry, but they knew that food which lasted too long on the shelf had something done to it that did not belong in the body. The fix is to read your labels. If a word looks like it belongs in a chemistry classroom rather than a kitchen, set the package back. Choose foods that spoil quickly. Bread from a bakery that goes stale in 3 days. Yogurt with only milk and live cultures. Salad dressings made fresh at home with oil, vinegar, and a pinch of salt. Fermented foods like miso or sauerkraut, prepared the old way, help rebuild the mucus layer. A small spoonful with each meal does more than most people realize. But the food I have been waiting to share with you is the master of all 5. The one 9 out of 10 elders in my village would never put on the table. Number 1 is sugar. Not the small amount in a piece of fruit. Not the honey in your tea on a cold morning. The hidden, refined sugar that has been added to nearly every packaged food in the modern grocery, even the ones that taste savory. The bread, the pasta sauce, the breakfast cereal, the salad dressing, the canned soup, the morning yogurt that you thought was healthy. Refined sugar feeds the wrong bacteria in the colon. There is a balance in the gut between bacteria that protect the wall and bacteria that wear it down. Sugar feeds the second kind. They grow in numbers, crowd out the gentle ones, and release small acids that thin the protective lining. Picture a quiet garden suddenly overrun with one aggressive weed that takes all the water and leaves nothing for the gentle herbs. After 60, the immune patrol that normally keeps these wrong bacteria in check weakens by nearly 50%, so the imbalance grows fast and grows loud. Researchers in Boston followed over 5,000 adults for 9 years. Those who consumed more than 50 grams of added sugar daily showed colon wall integrity 52% below those who ate sugar only from whole fruit, 52%. And researchers in Sweden tracked nearly 7,000 elders for 11 years and found cramping symptoms reduced by 61% in those who lowered their added sugar to under 20 grams a day. My grandfather used to say that the body remembers everything sweet that does not come from a tree or a hive. A retired librarian named Gloria came to me from Bozeman, Montana. 76 years old. Cramping that kept her awake at night for 6 years. She thought she ate well. Salads, lean meats, very little dessert. But her dressing, her pasta sauce, her morning yogurt, her sandwich bread, all together added up to nearly 70 grams of hidden sugar a day. We rebuilt her shelves slowly over a season. Within 4 months, her night cramping had eased by nearly 80%. But here is the part of Eleanor's, Harold's, and Gloria's stories I have been holding back from you, because it is the most important thing I have to share with anyone over 60. All 3 of them hit a wall. The food changes got them 70, 75, 80% of the way home, and then the healing slowed. The cramping eased, but never fully left. Eleanor told me she could feel it in the evenings. Harold told me his afternoon walks were still cut short. Gloria told me she still woke once or twice each night with that low, twisting ache. The food was no longer the problem. The food had stopped being the problem weeks earlier. What remained was the inner garden itself, worn down from 40 years of the wrong soil, the wrong weather, the wrong tending. This is the conversation I have to have with you friend to friend. After 60, you can remove every harmful food from your kitchen, and you will still be working with a garden that has lost half its plants. The body, after a certain age, does not regrow that bacteria on its own. It cannot. The soil has been thin for too long, and the seeds that should have settled there decades ago were crowded out by the sugar and the emulsifiers and the oxidized oils. This is the part the food alone cannot reach. I spent nearly 4 years searching for what would close that final gap for my friends. I tried the fermented foods of our village, miso and pickled vegetables, and the old kombucha brewed in clay vessels, and they helped, but slowly and not enough for the elders who came to me with 20 or 30 years of damage. I tried the standard probiotic capsules sold in the pharmacies. Most of them did not survive the journey through the stomach acid. The bacteria arrived dead. I read the laboratory studies. I spoke with researchers in Tokyo and in Kyoto, and I came to understand something the old healers had always known but never named in this way. A garden needs three things, not one. It needs the seeds, which are the probiotics, the living bacteria themselves. It needs the soil to plant them in, which is the prebiotic fiber that feeds them. And it needs the small fruits the plants produce, which are the postbiotics, the actual healing compounds that mend the colon wall. Probiotics alone are seeds dropped on bare ground. They cannot take root. They cannot feed themselves. This is why most supplements fail people over 60, even good ones. They give you the seeds and forget the soil. The product I now recommend to my friends is called BoochBod. It is the only one I have found that contains all three together, the seeds, the soil, and the fruits, in a single small kombucha gummy. It carries two carefully studied strains, Lactospore and Postbiotics LM1004, alongside dandelion root, which the elder healers of our village have used for many generations to soothe the inner garden. Over 30,000 people are using it now. It is a gummy, not a pill, which my friends with trouble swallowing capsules find a great kindness. You chew it the way you would a small piece of dried fruit, and the body receives it gently. When Eleanor added BoochBod to her routine, the last 30% of her cramping eased within 6 weeks. She wrote to me, "Master Okamura, I sat through my whole grandson's piano recital without leaving once." Harold told me his afternoon walks finally returned, the long ones he used to take when he was still walking his postal route. Gloria slept through a full night for the first time since her husband passed, 4 years before. 3 different bellies, 3 different lives, all of them reached the same wall, and all of them needed the same final piece. The food changes were the foundation. They had to come first. But BoochBod was the piece their bodies could no longer make on their own. The link is in the description below. There is a 60-day guarantee, so if it does not bring relief, you simply send it back. No questions, no troubles. As always, please speak with your doctor before starting any supplement, especially if you are on medications. A small word before we close. The cells of the colon wall renew themselves every few days, no matter how many years they have been worn. At 70, at 75, at 80, the body still mends. The garden still grows when it is given what it needs. You are the one tending this garden. You always have been. Picture the morning a year from now. The light coming through your kitchen window. You sit with your warm broth, your porridge, your coffee, in that order. There is no twisting, no bracing. Later that day, your granddaughter comes by, and you sit at the table with her after lunch, and you stay for the whole afternoon. You do not slip away. If this reached you tonight and you have a worn inner garden you would like to begin tending again, the link to BoochBod is in the description below, with the 60-day guarantee waiting there. That is the one thing I would ask of you tonight. Take a look. See if it speaks to you. If you would like more of these conversations as the seasons go on, you can subscribe so the videos find you. But the garden first, dear friend. Always the garden first, until we sit together again. Be gentle with the inner garden. Walk slowly, eat warm, and rest well tonight.